Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 4:31 p.m. And I'd like to acknowledge the importance of our First Nation community partners. We value all of their cultures, histories, and relationships with us and all other First Nations people. Can I ask you to put your microphone on mute unless you're actually speaking? And I'll call for an approval of the agenda. We did receive an addendum this afternoon after 2 o'clock with several pieces of correspondence related to item 6E, the Ferris Hill Road. So with that addendum, could I have approval of the agenda? Okay, thank you. And just briefly, I hope everybody had. Who is
somebody talking in the background?
Somebody, yeah, I need you to put your microphone on mute unless you are actually speaking, please. So I hope everybody had a good March break. We're into, I hope, real spring. And I want to remind everybody that COVID remains in our community. Within the township offices, we are still asking people to wear their masks and continue hand washing. And most importantly, if you have any symptoms of any sickness, please stay home. You'll also see on today's agenda, the beginning of the circulation of the official plan. It's a big read. I've been doing it over the last several weeks, and I figure I can do about 20 minutes or 20 pages at a time before I just can't focus. But I do really expect all members of council to go through the entire official plan, and you'll see we'll be talking about it as we move forward. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? No, I see none. So I'm moving on to a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of council held March 7th, 2022 as circulated. Could I have a motion by Councillor Moffat?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Coles.
I will second that motion.
All in favor of approving the minutes? Thank you. And we will move on to the Shore Road Allowance applications. Council will now consider the following road allowance applications. Shore Road application number RAS 2020-0016-F for Aron Scott Lake, bylaw number 2022-031. Shore Road allowance application number RAS 2020-0024-H for Rietzel on Little Whitefish Lake, bylaw number 2022-033. Shore Road allowance application number RAS-2021-0022-H for Quinn on Lake Joseph, and that's bylaw number 2022-032. And Shore Road allowance application numbers RAS-2021-0031-F for Bar and RAS-2021-0032-F for Rettiger on Otter Lake, bylaw number 2022-036. Have any written objections been received related to these applications?
No written objections have been received related to the applications.
Has anyone registered to speak to these applications?
No one has registered to speak to these applications.
But I will ask Lauren to take us through them in order, starting with 5A for Aron, if you don't mind. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we'll start with the Aron on page 20 of the agenda package. So the owners at 7 Salmon Lake Road are looking to purchase a shore road allowance abutting their property on Scott Lake. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or we can go to the next one.
So I will read the motion that bylaw number 2022-031, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original shore road allowance application number RAS-2020-0016-F for a road is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved.
You, and seconded by Councillor Fellner.
Second that.
All in favor? You. Lauren, Rietzel on Little Whitefish Lake.
Thank you, Your Worship. The owners at 162 10th concession have applied to obtain their shore road allowance, and this is a property on Little Whitefish Lake. A deeming bylaw is required with this one in order to merge the shore road allowance with the property itself. I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Hello? Anybody out there?
Oh, sorry, it's my mic, I'm getting used to the pet. I will read it again. That bylaw number 2022-033, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original shore road allowance, application number RAS-2020-0024-H for Rietzel is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move your motion, Mayor.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And then we have the deeming bylaw, that bylaw number 2022-034, being a bylaw to deem Lot 10 of Plan M50 pursuant to Section 50(4) of the Planning Act not be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-010-008-0433300, file number D 2020-0024-H for Rietzel is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat
I so move that motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Coles?
Second that motion.
All in favor of the deeming bylaw? Thank you. And Lauren Quinns on Lake Joseph.
Thank you, Your Worship. This property is at 16 Mail Run. They're looking to obtain their shore road allowance. And as Your Worship mentioned, it's on Lake Joseph.
Okay, I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-032, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of original shore road allowance, application number RAS-2021-0022-H for Quinn is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And the final two, Lauren?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is actually a combined file for two neighboring properties at 8 and 10 Black Bear Path who had submitted applications together. Both owners are looking at obtaining their relative abutting shore road allowances on Otter Lake. With this one, a deeming bylaw is required as well in order to merge the shore road allowance with the property. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And I will read the motion that bylaw number 2022-036, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of original shore road allowance, application number RAS 2021-0031-F for bar, and number RAS 2021-0032-F for Rettinger is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I so move your motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have that bylaw number 2022-037, being a bylaw to deem lot 47 of Plan M-220 pursuant to section 50(4) of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-030-005-05700, file number D 2021-0012-F for bar is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat
I so move that motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Coles?
I'll second that.
And all in favor? Thank you. And I have the second part of the deeming bylaw, that bylaw number 2022-043, being a bylaw to deem lot 46 of Plan M-220 pursuant to section 50(4) of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-030-005-05600, file number D 2021-0013-F for Rettinger is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
Second that, Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. And we move into staff reports. I have a motion that Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda of April 4th, 2022 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I so move your motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that.
All in favor of receiving staff reports? Thank you. Okay, I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-020, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-030-008-02475, rezoning application number R 2021-0014-F for Wilson is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat
I so move that motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Coles?
I'll second that motion.
And I'm going to ask Taylor to speak to it a little bit. Is Taylor there? Yes. Okay. Taylor, over to you.
Thank you. Through your worship, this bylaw is to rezone the lands to recognize a minimum lot frontage of 45 meters and a minimum lot area of 0.97 meters. It's also implementing a minimum setback from the railway to ensure that there are no sensitive land uses near it. And it'll also require site plan control to implement the recommendations of the environmental report and noise and vibration study. There's also a severance application to create the 5 lots. So 4 new lots plus the 1 existing. They front onto Rankin Lake Road and the retaining lands onto Old Otter Lake Road.
Are there any questions for Taylor? Councillor Osborne?
Thank you, Mayor. Taylor, I noticed under comments, staff comments, Public Works is asking for easement or park-to-park trail in the OFC. Part of this property, they're looking for an easement. Is that included in this? Are we having a bylaw? And is that included as a condition of the bylaw?
Yes, through your worship, condition 6 of the severance application requires the dedication of parkland or the easement and cat the snowmobile trail. So that is covered by the severance application, as we cannot do conditional zoning. So this is the best way to address that request.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All in favor? Thank you. And then this is the consent that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application number B 2021-0025-F and B 2021-0026-F and B 2021-0027-F and B 2021-0028-F for Wilson, subject to the conditions set out in the decisions. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion here. Whereas Rogers Communications Incorporated proposes to erect a 30-meter high monopole type freestanding telecommunications base station facility on the lands legally described as Concession 3, part of Lot 5, RP 42R5518, part of Part 3. And whereas the proponents of a telecommunications tower and supporting structures require the approval of Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, known as INSEAD, on behalf of the Government of Canada, and as part of the approval, INSEAD requires such proponents to consult with local land use authorities prior to the erection of antennae systems as provided in CPC-2-0-03, and the proposed telecommunications base station facility is considered an antenna system. And whereas the Corporation of the Township of Seguin is a local land use authority. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby acknowledge A, the township is satisfied with Rogers' consultation process. B, the proposed design and location is acceptable to the township, subject to the proponent entering into the municipal access agreement. And C, the township has been consulted and concurs with the tower location. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move your motion, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
I think I see Shane or Patrick, sorry. Do you have any comments on this?
Just thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Just a brief overview. Council first saw this application earlier in the year, January, and the proponents scoped the public consultation process. Now, of course, they're back for final blessing from the township at this point. They did the required public consultation, which involved mailing out to residents within 400 meters of the site. That has been completed. There was only one minor comment received to just confirm the location of the tower itself. But other than that, no comments received from members of the public, and staff are recommending that this resolution be passed so they can proceed with the tower. So that is it for me.
Are there any questions for Patrick? No, then I call for a vote. All in favor of approving this? Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
I think I'm back to Taylor on the public circulation of the draft official plan. So Taylor, do you want to take us through what you're recommending here a little bit?
Thank you. The planning consultant, Mike Winnie, and myself are recommending that we post the draft official plan to the website, circulate it to all required ministries, and engage in the public process. At the same time, we're going to still hear comments from the steering committee. So that way we can move forward and push to have this before council and the public in as much time as necessary to do so.
Thank you. So basically what we're recommending is that we all start reading and commenting on the official plan at the same time so that we can expedite all of the comments.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Taylor? Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. I've read through part of this already, about 40 pages, and so right away some questions come up. Who should the questions be directed to, Taylor, and by what means? Obviously, we're not doing that in the middle of a council meeting, right?
So once we post it to our official plan review website, there will be an email address to be funneled to. If there's any pressing questions that councillor has before that, feel free to email me and I can make sure that we get it to the right location, which is the Skelton Bromwell link. But there will be a website that documents what to do, where to direct comments, and hopefully we can get back to people in a expeditious manner as possible.
And finally, the public meeting is scheduled for what date?
It is not yet scheduled.
Oh.
So this is just bringing it out for the public to review and comment on.
Yeah.
There still has to be a public open house and public meeting to review this document before a decision can be made. And then after that, it would go to the province for a final decision.
Right. So preferably that's going to be a in-person public meeting if it's the summer or fall. Is that the plan at this point, or?
I think we'll have to, that would be ideal. That is how open houses are envisioned in the Planning Act typically, but that was pre-COVID. So I don't think at this point we can promise it will be in person, because I think we've all thought at one time or another we were getting closer to normal business only to be returned to another state of COVID measures. So I think we'll have to adapt to the times in regards to that question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know it's a big unknown if the province would ever make up their mind which way they're going. Thank you.
I do want to remind everybody that we had said whatever form it takes, whether it's electronic or virtual or in person, as best as we can, we want to allow comments from the seasonal population. So that's coming up. Yes, okay, I do. Daryl, Councillor Moffat, it's hard to see the yellow in the corner.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess just to follow up from Councillor Osborne's comments, Taylor, broad strokes in terms of sort of a timeline between now and when we would send it across to the province for approval / back to council. Just looking for some broad strokes just to get some indication out to the public as to what they would expect as a timeline, if you could. Thanks.
That's hard to say. It's already been sent to the province and the ministries earlier in the year, so they have seen it at a higher level, but it would be better to get them the more official document at this stage. Reason we sent it to the province already is we wanted them to have 1 foot in the door, so to speak, upon reviewing it, so they weren't waiting until later into the year. There are minimum timelines that have to happen, the open house and public meeting, but I'm aware that this is a pressing matter. Hopefully we can have it to a decision within 2 or 3 months at the top end, I would hope, but it will really depend on what we hear from the public and the province and what type of measures are needed to respond to those comments. And then once council adopts it, I'm not sure what the timelines of the province will be. Sometimes they can be very prompt at that. Other times it could take a while depending on the level of modification required.
So if we're sitting here in April, we're looking at July, August, kind of a time frame.
Hopefully at the latest end of it.
Okay, thank you very much, Taylor.
I'll just remind everybody, including Taylor and Mr. Winia, that we would like to get this done and submitted in this term of council, for sure. Okay, no further questions. We move on to corporate services. And I think I'm calling on Michelle for this. I have a resolution that, as per report number TR-2022-006, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize the following 2021 year-end reserve transfers as of December 31st, 2021. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Coles.
I'll second that motion.
And I'll turn it over to Michelle to explain a little bit.
Thank you, Your Worship. The year-end audit is just about done. The $402,000 that we projected as our year-end surplus, I was asked today where that came from. And I have to tell you, it came from everywhere in our budget. And the main effect is COVID. We had savings from the firefighters' honorariums of approximately $84,000 because the firefighters weren't attending training at the beginning of the year and they weren't responding to certain calls. Travel and conference across the organization, we saved $60,000 because we were not traveling to conferences. So the $402,000 is not unexpected. It's a little bit higher than I thought it was going to be, but we really tried to take advantage of the COVID funding that was provided to us by the province to cover all of the losses that we had. So my recommendation is to transfer the $302,000 into the reserve for the Pool and Wellness Center, which will help us to deal with the cash calls that are already starting.
Just clarifying for a second, Michelle, the motion does say 302,000, but the executive summary received in our agenda package said 402,000.
The surplus is 402, and we always carry 100,000 forward. Municipal accounting, it's always fun. But the recommendation is for 302 and to carry the 100 forward.
Okay, so the motion is to move the 302 into the reserve for the Pool and Wellness Center, and the 100 goes automatically into the reserves, correct?
It goes into the next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Oh, Councillor Osborne, I'm sorry. It's hard for me to see the little yellow hands. You're a long way away on this, but go ahead.
Yeah, we should make them red and white striped or something. So a question for Michelle, Mayor. Michelle, how does the 402K surplus compare with the surplus we had in 20? Like the first year of COVID, because we've had 2 full years of COVID now. I don't recall that amount in 20. Do you know off the top of your head?
You know what? I actually don't. It has been,
Okay.
It feels like it's forever ago.
Yeah, because we had
I can
savings.
get that
We had
information
savings.
for you.
Okay, because we did have savings in 20 as well as 21. which maybe should have been reflected in our budgeting for 21. But anyway, that's water under the bridge. I'm not expecting, I'm sure you're not expecting to have this substantial savings this year in 22 that you would have had in 21 due to COVID. Right? Thank you.
It remains a bit of a moving target till we unpack each month, but for now, this is a nice contribution to the Pool and Wellness Center Reserve. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read the motion, but then I'm going to ask Michelle and our CAO Jason to talk to the recommendations, which are on page 325 of your agenda package. We have the motion that was deferred at the March meeting that I will read now. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve completing the work for improving Ferris Road Hill, concept number 6 of the RHH engineering report dated November 24th, 2021, as approved on December 6th, 2021, in stages as approved by the Chief Administrative Officer, such that improvements to Ferris Road Hill will be in service on or before December 31, 2024, to the west of the existing Ferris Road. Funding of the stages would be provided through general tax revenue and grants where available. That was moved by Councillor Moffat and seconded by Councillor Coles. However, it was then deferred by Councillor Coles and seconded by Councillor Fellner. So, staff would like to speak now to give us some new information and recommendations. So I'll turn it over to Jason, I think.
Thank you, Worship, members of council. So we received pretty clear direction from council on where to go after that meeting, but required a bit more time. As part of that exercise of reviewing the details and as outlined in the staff report attached to today's agenda, we've given you two options, one of which is what council had suggested around rolling the seasonal budget forward, the seasonal roads conversion budget forward over the number of years. That turns into about a 5-year period before there's enough funds available to undertake the work. And then the second option, which we explored and are actually recommending to council, is that we would actually fold up the seasonal road program in future years and allocate the funds according to priority based on the capital budget and the capital projects. So what you would see is the Ferris Road Hill evaluated in the infrastructure program for 2023 and beyond, and that forecast in those years be allocated into the budget according to priority and available funding. So I'll look to the clerk from a process perspective, and of course, Michelle, if she had anything to add in, but I think what we're suggesting is let's defeat the previous motion and consider a new one. And I'll perhaps ask the clerk to clarify process, but what we're putting before you a new recommendation.
Thank you. And I see questions from Councillor Finson.
My question would be if the seasonal roads get put in the capital budget system, do the projects that are already there on the year-round roads that are already year-round roads get handled before the new projects that are coming into? Because I'm asking because of Burgess Road, which has been on that list for 4 years, the 4 years I've been on council. And I just wonder will those projects that are already on there be done prior to the ones that are coming in?
Through your worship, Councillor Finson, it's a great question. What we need to actually undertake is 2023 is a year for an update on the roads needs study. And what we would be doing is evaluating based on some redefined criteria where all of the projects fit. Those that are already mapped out will continue to be in play. but we would reconsider the whole infrastructure program as we update our roads needs study and update current conditions. And so I can't assure anybody of any timing until we undertake that work, but roads such as Burgess, we know we're investing fairly significant dollars almost annually at this point, trying to keep sections of it open. So we know that that's a top priority that needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
Councillor Coles.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for that, for the report. Just a couple of comments before I have any questions. It's apparent to me that for my time in the township that, and this isn't pointing fingers at staff at all, it's pointing fingers at previous councils, I think, but that council has never taken seriously the issue of seasonal roads. In fact, when you drive down most seasonal roads, they're in pretty rough shape because they're maintained seasonally. You don't have to get snowplows on them in the wintertime. They're not up to snuff. So, which is why we started this process in the first place. And it's in part an economic development issue. People that would live here on a year-round basis if those roads were year-round. So I will agree with this recommendation on one provision. That is that we can ensure that seasonal roads are included in the capital program in a way that gives them fair and equitable treatment, so that, in fact, if they, and I look at one in my ward, Three-Legged Lake Road, which goes to Massasauga Provincial Park, busy road, and doesn't get plowed in the wintertime, and it needs a lot of work, but it's an extremely busy road. And it needs to be upgraded. So my question is, will they get fair and equitable treatment going forward so that these roads are upgraded in a timely fashion, not to jeopardize the existing road program, but to add on to it? I honestly, this is the only one of the very few things our residents get as a benefit, a tax benefit, is our roads. The other is waste. So it seems to me unreasonable that we cut the seasonal roads program just when we're beginning to make progress. And I have no problem with the recommendation, provided the seasonal roads are in there in an equitable and fair way.
Through your worship, it's a very, we hear your point loud and clear, Councillor Coles, and I can assure you that as part of the roads needs study and a fulsome review, historically, those roads have not been included, but on a go-forward basis, they need to be. I took, our public works staff was good enough to put a summary together for me, and frankly, some of the projects that are left are either, you know, very, very small in scope and something that we likely can pick up during our routine maintenance, or they're very significant and the current funding isn't going to address the needs anyways. So they become capital projects. So what we would like to do is take all of the roads, study all of them, define the criteria, define the criteria that set the priorities, and work those into our infrastructure program for the next 5, 10, and so on years into the future. So yes, they will be included, and yes, they will get their due priority.
Thank you.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. So Jason, I guess I've got my question. My first question I already answered. The seasonal roads program would be wrapped up and finished and put it all into the capital forecast. I just wanted to agree with both Councillor Finson and Councillor Coles that I too would like to see full equity with regards to the work on seasonal roads compared to others. And as long as there is full equity, I have no problem with that change. Thank you.
Councillor Collins, I did see your hand up at one point.
Okay. There you go. Is it up now, Mayor?
No, but you can speak because I did see it up at one point. So go ahead.
Okay, so then I get listening to our CAO. I guess we're going to be not really scrapping the 10-year infrastructure improvement strategy that we all passed in 2020. Is that it's going to be redone. So obviously my concerns are with Star Lake and Blackwater Road. And I know that Councillor Finson's concerns are Burgess, Cardwell, and Maplehurst. So I'm thinking to myself, then there's going to be a new firm business plan put in place. And when would we expect to see that? How soon would we expect to see that? And this question is to our CAO.
Thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Collins, the certain roads such as Star Lake as an example are already underway. The engineering work is underway. There's a commitment to seeing that road through. We're not going to stop that work at this point. We've committed to moving forward with that, and that work will see its way through. In 2023, the roads need study needs to be redone, refreshed. It'll have reached its 5-year target. I think what I'm expressing is there's a variety of new criteria. I mean, we may want to consider as that part of that exercise, and we'll scope that out. So that work will be undertaken next year, and a new infrastructure plan would be presented later in 2023. I can't define a timeline because obviously there's quite a bit of work there, but the whole plan would be unveiled in the latter half of 2023 at the earliest.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, that I think is what we need to do. We've got the maintenance, we got the road maintenance mixed in with the capital roads projects, and everything should be prioritized and looked at on a basis of public year-round roads and seasonal roads. So because right now, I'm even getting calls now on Turtle Lake Road that was just done. And that's in dire straits right now, as well as a lot of other roads that have just recently been done since 2019. So this is something that needs to be done. And I'm thankful that we're looking at this and moving our roads projects forward finally. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think as you've heard the CAO comment, it's time to redo that plan and look at the whole thing as part of asset management. So it'll get done. Yeah, I see Councillor Fellner has his hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to voice my agreement with the new proposal. I think it's I agree that the seasonal roads plan that we implemented at the beginning of this council term is, borne some good results. And as long as the seasonal roads are included in the roads needs study, I'm fine with that. I, however, would be happier if we moved the review of the roads needs study up from 2023 and got working on that sooner, because if it's done by the end of 2023, it's kind of too late to hit the 2024 capital plan. So I think I'd be a little happier if we could get rolling on that sooner rather than later, because I think to everyone, to Councillor Collins's point, we've got some problem areas with, some of the roads that were reconstructed over the last little while, so that are going to have to get thrown in the mix too. So those are my comments. Not particularly any questions for anyone.
Through your worship, I'll just quickly throw in, it's a great point, Councillor Fellner, that the timing of doing the study update in 2023 does have some lag that's associated with it. If we were to advance it, I would suggest the earliest we're going to be able to do it is the spring of 2023 anyways. I would not want to be doing that study in August or September when conditions are at their most favorable. I'd rather undertake the study when conditions are at their least favorable. So now, in essence, that would mean having somebody out surveying roads now. We're not going to be able to turn that around. And so it'll be spring 2023 at the earliest before we could reach that timing.
Okay, point taken.
And I also think there'll be a council change in late autumn, so we need to be conscious of who can make decisions for the capital projects. Councillor Osborne, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. All right, back to the issue at hand, Ferris Road. Now that we've discussed the dovetailing of the two systems, where does that leave us on Ferris Road, Jason? And timing wise, and start on that project?
It's a really great question, Councillor Osborne. It doesn't actually define a timeline for start. What I'm suggesting is there's a commitment that the project will be included in the future capital forecast based on the outcome of that review, based on the outcome of a revised roads needs study. With the criteria in place, we would then be able to slot it into what year it would be considered. But I can't make that commitment right now because, in fairness, there's quite a bit of work to do before we can make that commitment.
All right, so just to, if I may, Mayor, supplementary here. We did discuss getting a start on this thing in this fiscal year, originally when we discussed it. Now it sounds like we're not even going to get a start on it till 23 for Ferris Road. And I don't know how long that'll, if it's done over time, is that going to mean a 2 or 3 year window for completion for that project? Because this kind of changes the color of everything now. Because we were kind of, I think council expressed the desire to get started at least on Ferris Road project this year. I don't know if others have thoughts. Thank you.
I'll just jump in quickly and I'll be conscious of the closed session direction, but council gave closed direction to proceed with a certain portion of this project immediately. That work is underway. Without getting into the details, I'm happy when we do move into close later to update council on what that is. But with respect to the rest of the construction activity and et cetera, we would look to complete that study, understand the impacts and when and where we could financially fit it into the forecast, along with where it sits on the priority list of all the other projects.
Okay, thank you. So we'll get a verbal update in closed on portions of it. I need to turn to the clerk to know what to do with these various resolutions. We have the deferred resolution in front of us. Are we now defeating it?
Just a question to both the CAO and the CFO, I guess. Is any part of the first part of that resolution required?
No.
Okay, so yes, at this point, you have a motion on the table to be voted on or discussed. So you may want to read it again and see if there's any discussion on it before you vote.
Okay, people want to hear the resolution that we deferred last week. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve completing the work for improving Ferris Road Hill, concept number 6 of the RHH engineering report dated November 24th, 2021, as approved on December 6, 2021, in stages as approved by the Chief Administrative Officer, such that the improvements to Ferris Road Hill will be in service on or before December 31, 2024 to the west of the existing Ferris Road. Funding of the stages would be provided through general tax revenue and grants where available. So that's in front of you now. It was deferred until today. And as I understand, what we're asking people to do is to defeat this motion, and you will have another resolution putting it into the capital budget.
Excuse me, that's the process. Technically, we're not asking anybody to defeat or carry or anything. That's council is going to have that discussion. But based on the new report and recommendation, if council was going that way, yes, you would defeat this resolution. Somebody's going to propose a new one, and then you'd have discussion and a vote.
Okay, so I guess I would call for discussion, if there is any further discussion, or a vote. Counselor Osborne?
Thank you, Mayor. So this resolution did have a timeline of December 24, which was during the discussion about to be amended because the timeline was considered to be too short. That amendment never did get tabled. So I'm just stating, I guess, that based on the wording of the resolution and our new status on roads, we have to defeat this because there's no way it could be completed by 24 December anyway. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think if we defeat it, then there will be a resolution accepting the staff recommendation to put it into the capital budgets. Counselor Collins, I saw your hand up a minute ago and now I don't.
No, I'm agreeing with what you just said. That's exactly what is how council's going to move ahead with this is exactly what you just said. Because I can recall the meeting that the reason why the last resolution was deferred is because there was a drop dead date, and that wasn't going to fly with council at that time. So the new resolution, I'm waiting to hear what that's going to be, and that's what we'll be voting on, I guess. Thank
So
you.
we have to call a vote on this one. So all in favor of the motion that included the December 31, 2024 date? I see no hands. All in favor of defeating the motion that had the date? Okay, I see 5 hands and an abstention from Councillor Moffat. Okay. Okay, so now so do I put the defeated in today's date? Okay. Okay, defeated, April. Okay, now. Oh, sorry, wait. Sorry. Okay, so I have a new motion. That council adopt option 2 of staff report TR 2022-007 and include the Ferris Road project as a future capital budget item to be included in the 2023 capital forecast with the details of timing subject to a comprehensive review of the capital budget priorities and available financing.
Mhm.
Could I have a motion from Councillor Coles?
Can I amend that motion?
Oh, man.
I think,
I just want to make sure that all of the seasonal roads are equitably treated. And I would just like to insert that someplace in there. I agree with the motion with that exception. I want to make sure it includes seasonal roads.
Your worship, members of council, by adopting option 2 as outlined in staff report TR 2022-007, the details of that report do confirm the inclusion of seasonal roads in the future studies. So I think it's built into that recommendation already.
you will see that on page 27 of the agenda package under option 2.
Yeah, I see that. Just want to make sure it's in the recommendation. So as long as I can be assured that the recommendation includes that, I'm happy. Okay.
So can you make the motion, sorry,
Yeah.
Councillor Osborne, you have your hand up.
Okay,
Yeah, quick one. In line with that comment of Councillor Coles, in that option 2, it does say, subject to a comprehensive review of the capital budget priorities. And I'm not sure that priorities word being in there would refer to seasonal roads. Because it just stands to reason that year-round roads would get priority in a roads capital budget, and thereby setting seasonal roads to the back seat. I'm a little concerned about that priority word. That's all. Thank you.
I think if you look at the paragraph that begins on page 328, the first paragraph noted seasonal roads have not historically been included in the roads needs study. As a result, council directed the creation of the current seasonal road conversion progress. A thorough review of the remaining roads is completed. That will clearly, if we adopt option 2, as it's spelled out in the agenda package, would include it.
Well, I guess in answer to that, Mayor, you're right. It does conclude it. I guess the council of the day, when this happens in 23, will have to determine what the priorities are and whether or not Ferris Road is one of those priorities. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take one more question from Councillor Fellner, and then I need to get a motion mover and a seconder to this motion. Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, it's not a question so much, it's a comment. I think that I think that and I was, part of the original committee with Councillor Coles, and recommended the seasonal strategy. But I think the big win for seasonal roads here is getting them included in the 10-year assessment. Because historically before they weren't included in that. So just by virtue of having them included is gonna create the background that you need for the justification of what you fix and when you fix it. And I have no doubt that the Ferris Road Hill will be, very high on the list of health safety concerns. So and that's really just a comment to that.
Councillor Coles.
Sorry, I don't want to belabor this, but could we not just simply say the option is to include the Ferris Road project and all seasonal roads in the 2023 capital project or budget?
Oh, you're killing it. You're killing it.
I may.
It's prioritizing.
It does say that. It says that on page 328.
No, but you read the first line and who reads the end of it? It mentions Ferris Lane, but not the rest of the seasonal roads in the first.
It says the Ferris Road project along with the seasonal roads has not historically been included, but now we're going to include them. Doesn't that mean we're including them all?
It doesn't, it's not as emphatic as if in the first line of option 2, it was to say.
Okay, I'm gonna cut off the discussion here.
Okay.
This motion, when it comes back as part of capital, will refer back to recommendation 2 and this agenda package. And that is what the council of the day will see is the recommendation. So I would like to have a motion from someone to adopt the new resolution. Councillor Fellner, thank you.
I'll move that.
And could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Collins. All in favor?
Okay.
Thank you. And if you're on council of the day, refer back to these item recommendation 2.
You're darn tootin'.
Okay. I have a motion. Whereas in January 2022, an application was submitted to the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, NOHFC, Community Enhancement Program for the replacement of the Humphrey Community Centre roof. And whereas NOHFC has deemed the application as eligible for further consideration, and the NOHFC now requires a commitment from council that the township will fund 25% of the project and cover any cost overruns resulting from the project. Therefore, be it resolved that as per report CS-FC-2022-002, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby support the submission of the Stage 2 funding application to the NOHFC Community Enhancement Program for the Humphrey Community Centre roof replacement. And further, that council does hereby commit to funding 25%, $150,000 of the eligible project costs of the Humphrey Community Centre roof replacement project, plus any potential cost overruns resulting from that project. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Moffat.
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
And is it Michelle or Dominique?
Mhm.
Michelle, could you explain a little bit?
Absolutely. There is $600,000 in the 2023 capital budget for the replacement of the roof at the Humphrey Community Center. Our contact at NOHFC brought this program to our attention, and it progressed from phase 1 to phase 2 fairly quickly because it fit the requirements so well. So we're looking hopefully to get $450,000 from NOHFC, and the township will only have to put in 150, not 600.
Great.
Sorry, Councillor Osborne, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Michelle, does this dollar value, 500, 600,000, include a solar panel applied after this roof is installed? Because we discussed this years back, and the issue was we couldn't consider solar panels because the roof was too old and they'd have to be ripped off in order to change the roof. Now that we're looking to change the roof, how much more would it cost to include solar panels on the entire roof or south side? Thanks.
This project as it stands is not installing any solar panels. It is removing the double roof. I'm not sure if you remember that there's actually double roof on that building.
Mhm.
It's removing the roof and putting in a new one that, from my understanding from Dominique, would actually be able to take solar panels, but that's not part of this project.
Is it, I guess, is the project, the funding, is that possible as part of the funding under this program, or would it be another grant?
It would be another program. It would be
Oh,
another
all right.
project.
All right, I just think it's important that we're going to consider this, that we plan to put solar finally on one of our assets in this township. It is 2022 and we are all electric. Thank you.
The CAO would like to address this question.
Yeah, I'll just add.
Oh,
Thank you,
well,
Worship. I'll just add in quickly that Dominique, while she can't be here today, would explain that she's been doing quite a bit of research on putting solar on the roof after this infrastructure improvement is complete. So to your point, Councillor Osborne, it's high on our radar. We are investigating. And in fairness, there's an awful lot of other grants available for sort of green energy. And so we'll be pursuing that in due course.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve the 25% contribution in the NOHFC. All in favor? Thank you. This is good news. Let's hope it proceeds. Okay, I have a motion that, as per the recommendation of staff report number PW-RD-2022-003, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby award contract number 2022-007 to Dali Dust Control for the supply, delivery, and application of up to 275,000 liters of 35% liquid calcium chloride at 32 cents per liter plus applicable taxes for a total cost not to exceed 88,000 plus applicable taxes. Could I have a motion from Councillor Coles to this effect?
I will so move.
And seconded by Councillor Osborne.
Second, Mayor.
Peter Peter, do you have any comments?
This is a standard annual request for calcium for the roads in the spring. Prices have gone up a bit since last year, but the prices have gone up in everything. So.
All in favor of agreeing to staff? Oh, so I'm sorry, Councillor Moffat, I'm sorry. You need to not have a yellow roof or another yellow ceiling. Can't see your hand. Okay, Councillor
There,
Moffat.
now you can see it.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to confirm, Peter, that calcium will be applied to the summer maintained seasonal roads because in 2022.
There is allowance for some seasonal roads to have calcium put on them this year. Yes, the ones we've been working on.
Some or all, Peter?
Well, some of them, as described by Jason, are roads that are just not feasible to do at this time. We will be putting calcium chloride on the bulk of the seasonal roads.
Is Ferris Road included in the bulk, Peter?
We will, we'll see, yes, we will be putting calcium on that road, but we can't go any further than the railroad track.
The level cross,
The bridge.
not the bridge. Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the staff report? Thank you, and that's carried. Do I have a motion for the library budget? No. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Fellner and Michelle to address items 7A and B. Councillor Fellner?
Michelle,
Yeah.
So I give an overview. The library board worked a lot of work into this over the last couple of years to try, along with the CAO and the CFO, to try to get the compensation for the library staff on equal footing with what was paid for other township employees or township employees with similar duties. And as well, so the net result was, and we implemented them, it led to a 7.5% increase over last year. In consultation with senior management of the township, we felt that we could somewhat mitigate that this year by drawing from reserves and to fund some of it and take the balance and ask for a balance of a net increase of 4.5%. That's sort of it in a nutshell. It's all to do with staff and keeping staff. We had our struggles trying to keep staff for the extended hours at the multiple locations. It took a little bit of rethinking and re-strategy. And it was a real push to make the library staff feel as part of the township. So that's where we've ended up. I think it's pretty reasonable. I think, so, I mean, we're asking for your approval of this. Michelle?
Thank you. So the amount that was in the budget for 2022 in the draft budget for the library operating was 174,670. And this ask is essentially 182,530, or an increase of just under $8,000 from the draft operating budget.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Terry or Michelle?
Just Mayor, comment?
Councillor Osborne?
Yes, as a past member of the library board, last term of council, it's good to see they're finally getting the funding they should have had all along. So I'm all for this increase.
Councillor Moffat?
Thank you, Mayor. How many, outside of Stephanie, how many employees, I guess it's kind of been up and down over the last year, but generally, how many employees are we talking about at the library?
Well, to your point, Councilor Moffat, that's the big problem. It's been up, it's been down, it's been all over the place. And ultimately the strategy went, and we were depending on just one full-time position and then trying to fill out the program of part-time positions, and this became, in this employment market, became very difficult. So the decision was to try to hire one more full-time position and then backstop that with part-time positions. Now, what exactly the count is right now, to be quite frank, I'm not really sure, because I know that we were interviewing just not long ago because we had a bunch of people resign. So.
Okay, thank you.
So what do we need to do? Do we need it? Okay. Oh, Councillor Collins.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So, so we're talking, giving, I guess, to how many, okay, so we don't really have a number of how many employees there are. We know that we have one full-time librarian, and the rest are all part-time, I'm assuming. And so what would the hourly weekly rate be on part-time employees at the library? What do we look
Michelle,
at?
go ahead.
So right now, the library has one full-time staff, Stephanie, and there are 5 part-time year-round staff. There's also summer staff. And I know part of this plan is to hire another full-time staff member.
Okay, so everyone's working 35 hours or 40 hours a week then?
No,
Right.
just the full-time.
The full-time staff
That's correct.
is working 35 hours a week?
That's
Or
correct. Yes.
minimum.
35, yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm hearing that this is a long overdue recommendation. Do we have council agreement to give staff direction to include the increase in the library allocation? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, thank you very much. And now, Terry, I'm going to ask you to continue to talk about the park to park, but I have a resolution here for this one, that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve a donation in the amount of $20,000 to the Park to Park Trail Association. Could I have a motion from you, Councillor Fellner?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Collins.
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
And before I turn it over to you, Terry, I want to say that every time I bump into anybody that is a trail user, we get compliments. So you've done an outstanding job of turning it around to date. Do you want to talk to it a little bit? And then I'll take councillor questions.
Yeah, so this is a request for the for a donation of $20,000, which is been in the past. It's the same amount of money in the past. If you remember the last couple of years, we decided to withhold the cash to the association and provide services in kind, and we with the help of Public Works, we've been able to do a tremendous amount of work in rebuilding the base of this trail, and really can't thank the members of Public Works for their help. As well, Public Works is able to secure a substantial amount of material to use to rebuild the trail, which is probably the largest cost component. But what we found last year was, Public Works, they have their, the business of maintaining the roads and fixing washouts and this and that. And to some of the, councilors' comments last year, some of the work had to be suspended just due to availability of resources. So at the end of the year, if you remember I came and asked if, we would use the money to pay subcontractors for park to park. We were able, with the help of Public Works and private contractors at the end of the year, do a tremendous amount of work there. So I think that's the key this year. We're going to have to, Public Works has told us it's going to be a busy, challenging year for them. They're not sure how much they can support us. We're thinking that the way to make progress, we want to finish what we started last year. We'd like to get the section to Swords totally finished. We're probably 80–85% done. And then from there into Orville, and then keep going eastwards to the township line. We're asking this year that the donation be made in cash, and we will hire and manage the subcontractors to continue on the program that we started. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. We
thank
have
you.
some questions for you. I think Councillor Moffat first.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess the one thing that sticks out, Terry, and I've been involved in this before, is the comment about only having 2 municipalities on board. And I'm wondering, hold on before you answer. I'm just wondering, I know there's been a lot of progress on the trails and everything else, but that getting municipal cooperation and funding certainly would do better. And I'm just wondering if there's a strategy now to address that issue.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Moffat. Yeah, the initial strategy last year was, the main goal was to work on the base and show some progress and demonstrate, to the other municipalities that, you can do a lot with a little, and to the old adage that seeing is believing. So we intend this year, as part of the strategy, we intend to branch out a little more this year. We've got a, pretty good trail signage plan going on. We're instituting volunteers, and the other main thing for me to do is out talking to municipalities, showing them what we've done and how we did it, and hoping we can get, them back on the board. Right now, 2 municipalities it's not quite correct, because the town of Huntsville's rejoined the board, so there's 3. Park to Park is supposed to be a municipally driven organization, and there's 4 or 5 municipalities that have the right to sit on the board and chose not to. And so one of the goals this year is to try to get them all back on, because I think collectively we have a much stronger voice when it comes to grant applications and credibility and a variety of things. So yeah, that's high on our radar. So
Very good. Thank you very much.
Councillor Collins, I did see your hand up. Now it seems to be gone. Do you have another?
I know Terry, Councillor Fellner answered the question I was about to present. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the table to give them the $20,000. And Michelle, I believe you can confirm that it is already in the budget.
That's correct.
So all in favor? Thank you. And again, congratulations, Terry, for what you and your team have done. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize the following members of council to attend the 2022 Association of Municipalities of Ontario AMO Conference being held August 14th to 17th, 2022 in Ottawa, Ontario. Reimbursement of expenses will be as per the township policy. And as of the beginning of this morning, Councillor Finson and I were the only people that indicated an interest. Staff attendance will be handled differently. So could I have a motion from Councillor Finson?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Moffat.
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
All in favor of Counselor Finson and I attending in Ottawa? Thank you. And I think this is back to Michelle. I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-047, being a bylaw for establishing tax ratios, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Coles?
So move.
And seconded by Councillor Osborne.
I second that.
I think this is pretty standard. We've seen it other years, but Michelle, do you have anything to add?
No, these are the same ratios that we had last year.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a bylaw, that bylaw number 2022-044, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a fire protection agreement for the Blackstone Lake area between the Corporation of the Township of Seguin and the Corporation of the Township of Archipelago, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner to this effect?
I'll move that.
And seconded by Councillor Collins.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion? I believe this is reiterating what we've already got in place this year. All in favor? Thank you. And that's carried. Councillor Osborne, are you still online? Yeah, he may have lost internet connection, but if you do leave a meeting, just interrupt us and say, I'm leaving, because the clerk has to record who's there and who's not. So he may have lost internet connection on. And here is another one, that bylaw number 2022-045, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of agreement for fire protection services between the Corporation of the Township of Seguin and the Corporation of the Township of Muskoka Lakes, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson to this effect?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Moffat.
I'll second that motion, Mayor. It looks like Councillor Osborne.
Councillor Osborne is back. Did we lose your internet connection for a minute, Councillor Osborne? You're on mute, but you're back.
I actually needed a private moment.
Okay. Fair enough. All in favor of the agreement between Muskoka Lakes and Seguin? Thank you. All in favor. And we'll go to council reports, and let's start with Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been a busy month. Way back in March, we had a integrated community energy and climate action plans meeting, which was IceCap. And to discuss what we are doing, we've now scheduled a meeting for another update meeting for mid-June. So trying to keep the wheels on the bus with regards to that program and keep people engaged and informed. And similar to our official plan, we will be attempting to do an open house sort of, some sort of forum, but time will tell as to whether we'll be able to get that completed. Also on the 9th, we had a meeting with the Muskoka Watershed Council's Governance Committee. Spent a lot of time. Again, on the 22nd, we are finally at the stages of getting all our governance documents in place and getting them approved at our upcoming AGM, which is going to happen at the end of April. But we had to do a whole ton of housekeeping items as a result of the changes that the Ontario government brought forward with the Not-for-Profit Act. So it's been a lot of efforts by a lot of people working on it. We had a Foley Recreation Committee meeting on March 24th and laid out some, thankfully, seems to be the only rec committee that's operating in the township. I think maybe Rosso is a little bit, but certainly we've had a lot of meetings with Foley, and we are looking at scheduling several events, including there's an Easter one this weekend. We're looking at doing Canada Day, as well as heading back to the Rose Point Trail walk in the fall for the colors. So look for those things. And 2 additional meetings with the governance committee for Muskoka Watershed Council on the 25th and 30th. And then several emails on plowing, short-term accommodations planning have all came in through residents, as well as Ferris Road, based on, as everyone can see by the correspondence from this evening, a lot of activity on that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Coles.
Thank you. Again, a busy time, but maybe not as busy as previously. March the 9th, we had a meeting with the ad hoc committee and for Belvedere and Northwest Health REIT. And the proposal there is that Northwest Health REIT build the new facility along and get funded by the operating funding from the province. They do this for and lease back the property to the users. Northwest Health REIT is a REIT that builds worldwide health-related projects, actually, and they're very interested in what we're doing. Met with the Belvedere Finance Committee on March 21st, and the good news is that Belvedere is in a very positive position again, which has been good for reducing ongoing reductions on our municipal levy, which soon will not be a levy because we've given up rights to the beds. March 22nd, we met with an individual who is looking at the potential use of the Belvedere site. I can't say too much about that right now. March 23rd, Belvedere Heights Management Committee meeting, and again, all very productive. And the relationship we have now with the hospital, who we are in a management contract with, have been for the last 2 years, has been really productive, and actually has, even though the cost of the contract is reasonably expensive, it's resulted in significant savings. So it's been a very beneficial relationship. March 30th, I met with Paul Borman on the MZO issue to try and convince him that the Perry Sound people need to be on site. Made some progress, but I'm not sure how much. We'll know on Tuesday night, I guess. April the 1st, a meeting with property owners and Jason for the property on the corner of Carter's Landing and Otter Lake Road. They have an exciting proposal for what could happen, and that, you recall, like some time ago, it came to council for severing some lots there and ownership, and they have a proposal for what could happen there. So that will come in due course. And another meeting later in the same day with the mayor and Jason regarding the airport, which again is not really for discussion right now. And yeah, and we all produced articles for the Otter Lake Ratepayers Association. Well, not all of us, Daryl and the mayor and I, which just went out. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. I too attended with Councillor Coles, yourself, and Jason, the airport subcommittee meeting on Friday. I have an upcoming CPAC OPP meeting on the 21st. I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but your commute from Seguin to Perry Sound will be shortened by almost 10% because there's a pilot project from MacTier to Point of Barrel where the speed limit's being increased from 100 kilometers to 110. That's all I have to report. That happens at the end of April, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. This month, I was unable to attend my monthly plan, Committee of Adjustment meeting and the library board meeting. Due to some commitments, I did attend the meeting of the Pool Corporation on March 30th and sort of give you a brief update of what went on there. Due to a very great amount of work by the steering committee, we had put up an RFP out for a project manager for the project to oversee the project. We had, I believe it was five proposals. The steering committee recommended one on Thursday night, and it was approved. So we're going ahead and retaining a project management firm. We also appointed 11 people to the fundraising committee, of which thank you, Mayor McDermott, for your hard work there in getting people interested. The other, we appointed the chair and the vice chair for the chair for a 2-year term, the vice chair until the end of this council term. They remain the same. And we also approved the funding request for initial 20% in order to start moving this thing along. So I think we can, we've got some progress. The rubber sort of starting to hit the road now. As soon as we get this project manager on board, I think you can look forward to more regular reports. We haven't had too many meetings to date, just 3 to date over the last 4 months, or almost 5 months. So I think you can, I think they're going to start coming, to a monthly occurrence. We attended a board meeting for Lake Joe North, talked about various issues within my ward. Had a lot of emails this month, and a lot of telephone discussions with the constituents about certain issues. So all in all, it was a busy enough month. Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I did. A DSAB meeting on the 8th of last month. It was just a regular meeting. Nothing really to report there. There's been a lot of calls. I've been fielding a lot of calls about our MZO. And most of these residents are very optimistic, and there's a large approval rating from people calling in, hoping that this does go through with the ministry. And of course, I've been getting a lot of calls because Orville, my ward, there's a lot of full-time residents. So a lot of calls on the condition of our roads, and it's because of the season, spring, and so on. But yeah, that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Councillor Finson.
Hi, I have not had as busy a month as some of you. I had a museum meeting, and it was just a standard meeting, not a very long one. I had a Rosso Community Action Committee meeting, and they discussed, they're really excited to get back into events. So we're looking into the events that we're going to be having this year, Pumpkin Festival, classic car cruise and stuff like that. So, and they also had, they met again after we met, and to put their ideas into Dominique for the Rosso Community Hall, what they'd like to see in the master plan. I didn't attend the DSAB meeting. I wasn't able to attend it. I wasn't feeling well. And I've had a lot of calls about Maplehurst Road. I've had a lot of calls about Burgess Road. So the calls have been, and letters that I've had to respond to. So I've been really busy, busier than usual, dealing with constituents' concerns about things that are going on in the community. The roads, the Burgess Road is, I mean, they weren't able to get out or in. They had to park out on Highway 632. So it was a real mess. So I had a lot about that. I haven't started to get the calls yet. My road has so many potholes that I'm getting really good at dancing on my way home too. So it's just the time of year. Things will get better. I know they will. And they haven't started on my road yet. The other roads are much more serious. It's been a weird season. I mean, it went from snow to nothing real quick. So other than that, I wanted something. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention is I've had some calls about the field house and the number of pigeons that are living in there because a piece of the flashing has come off and they've decided that it's their home in the roof of the field house in Rosso. So, and so that brings on some foxes who think that dinner is like the crossroads for them. They come there for dinner. So anyway, people are just worried about the cats and their small dogs. But anyway, that's all I have to report. I will be discussing that with Dominique at a future time. So it's not, other than that, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Many of the meetings I was at have already been mentioned. On March 8th, I did have an airport commission meeting, and I can report that the clearing and construction for the runway rehabilitation is well underway. Hall's construction was taking advantage of frozen ground to do the blasting, and so they did a fair amount in the winter. March 23rd, Jason and I had a meeting with the equivalent of a CAO and 3 staff members from Wassosking to talk about the MZO, and it was a very productive meeting and open, honest discussion. We heard nothing negative. On the 28th, Councillor Fellner and Jason and I met with Reeve Liverance and the CAO from the Archipelago to talk about wellness center governance and stuff. And I think we held a pretty good understanding that we're on the same page. We want to see regular updates from the project manager. And we basically left the meeting saying that's all about to fall into place once there's a contract with the project manager. And tomorrow's a big night for Jason and I. We will be delegating at the Parry Sound Council on the MZO. Our goal is to just be open, transparent, and available for questions and discussions. I've had several calls throughout the last month from various Parry Sound councillors asking why we hadn't had previous discussions. And so Jason and I filled out all the forms and formally requested a delegation for tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be a long meeting based on their agenda, but the goal is to say, let's work together openly and transparently. Jason, do you have anything to add? Nope. Okay, so I will make a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee minutes and agendas and the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for April 4th, 2022. Could I have a motion from Councillor Coles?
I will so.
And seconded by Councillor Osborne. Okay, thank you. I saw that. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 6:09 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. And I guess we're going to have a verbal update on a little bit of Ferris Road status as well. Okay. Can I just put update on Ferris Road?
You'll have to put.
Sorry, we're doing some bureaucracy here. Sorry. So the motion is to move into closed for litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals and disposition or acquisition of land associated with the Ferris Road project update. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Collins?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor of moving into closed? Thank you. So we'll give the clerk a moment.